Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from, and welcome to this AFM InFocus webinar support for September 2024 exams. My name is Hazel McLucas and I work as an Education Partners Support Manager at ACCA. As the title of this webinar suggests, Examiner's Report Unlocked, our session today is designed to support you with the insights from the latest examiner report of Advanced Financial Management. And our expert tutor, Milind Date, has joined us to help you with your upcoming exam preparation. During the session, he will take you through the technical examples from previous exams and share practical advice for tackling the September exams. He'll also talk to you about the strategies which you should adopt to avoid common pitfalls and improve your exam performance. And towards the end of the session, we'll also have a live Q&A. Before I hand over to Milind, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items just quickly. So at the bottom of the screen, there are a number of buttons you can use. There's a help icon, which provides resources and information to help you resolve any technical issues you might experience. There are icons for both the slides and the media player, and you'll need both of these during the webinar, so make sure that you've selected them and you can see them on your screen. The attendee chat function is there that allows you to engage with fellow webinar attendees, but you should not be sharing any personal details in that chat. And there's also a resource list, and it's an icon that looks like a file. And if you click on this, you'll be able to access resources relevant to today's webinars, which will also include some direct links. You can rearrange your screen to suit and resize the windows if you need to. And if at any point you can't hear what we're saying or you can't see any of the slides or the cameras, then please refresh your browser. Registering for this webinar means you'll be sent an email tomorrow with details on how you can listen to it again. So don't worry if you miss something or if you have any technical issues, you'll be able to access the recording. I'm going to hand over to Milind in a moment and I'll be back with you towards the end of the session. But if you'd like to ask ACCA or Milind any questions, then please post them in the Q&A section. Please note that we can't guarantee responding to everyone directly, either verbally or in the chat, but we hope that the questions that we share will be helpful to everyone on the session today. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Milind.
Thank you so much. A very good afternoon or good evening based on wherever you come from, dear participants. I know the exam fever is catching up pretty fast and you all must be preparing yourselves to make sure that you ensure a pass for yourself in the upcoming AFM examination. Well, my name is Milind Date and I am ACCA expert tutor for multiple subjects, ranging from applied skills to strategic professional papers. And I also do train the trainer for ACCA on these various subjects. I have background of industry experience for about 25 years and then shifted to education over the last 13 years. I also work as an independent director for a US subsidiary in India. So with that background, let us now move to what we are going to look at today. And I'm sure as the agenda might have been circulated to you before as what to explain what you can expect from today's discussions. Basically, I'm trying to unlock for you what the examining team finds out based on the candidates' response to the task requirements in the previous ACCA AFM examination. And in particular, what I will do is I'll deal with the observations, comments, and advisory provided by the examining team for the March-June 2024 sample questions. And I'll also briefly talk about how certain technical examples from the same examination could be dealt with based on the comments by the examiner. And then I'll move on to providing you some practical tips which would surely help you to tackle your September examinations. Examining team also keeps on pinpointing some of the common weaknesses that the students reflect in their answers. So I'll take you through that and also share my own tips plus the tips that are suggested by the examining team for you to be able to avoid those common pitfalls and ensure a pass for yourself in this examination. And as earlier said, towards the end, I'll go ahead and try and answer your questions if at all they're there. So let's look at the key insights from the examiner's report on AFM March-June 2024 examination. Before we embark on this, there's just a very quick poll question that I have put. So please input your answers. The question reads like this: do you read examiner's report? And the answer is yes or no or sometimes. So let's quickly answer this question, which will set the context for me, and I can then base all my comments based on that. Please answer fast. I can see about 45 students have answered, 75. Once it crosses about 80%, I'll close the poll. So please be fast in answering. Yes, I'll wait for last 15 seconds now. That's it. So let me close out this poll and let's see what's the outcome. Well, 27% say yes, equal number says no, and sometimes is where the majority lies. Now, this is very, very interesting for me to note. Not majority of you seem to be making good use of the most fantastic resource that is made available by ACCA. A feedback of examining team based on the actual student performance, collected, analyzed, summarized in a most beautiful way, and then brought it out for the student fraternity. So please, in general, let me tell you, please develop a habit of reading every examiner report after every exam died as such. Fine, that's all right. Now, here I am because the question is how this examiner report going to help us and what insights do we get from these examining team report. So basically, as I said earlier, examiner's report is a standout resource, I would say. For today, we'll talk about AFM examination, but for all examination, students are highly recommended to go through the examiner's report. It's a very, very valuable resource that will give you a lot of insights. Basically, it covers the examining team observations, because whatever they observe through the process of marking your scripts, marking your answers, they would be providing you with constructive advice on how the answers should actually be written by the students. And for that purpose, my recommended approach to you will be, do one thing. Now you have about 3 weeks to go to the exam, so you will practice questions naturally. I suggest you take, for example, the questions from March, June 24 and write your answers using practice platform under exam conditions. Once you do that, you look at your answer and simultaneously read the examiner's report. You will be able to compare what you have written and what the examining team talks about expectations from you. So what's the gap? If you understand this gap in the coming days, you will have more than sufficient time to rectify or realign your approach in answering, and then you can ensure a pass for yourselves. Remember, AFM examination is all about strategic thinking, where you will have to necessarily carry out a lot of analysis, evaluation to provide recommendation or advisory using a lot of supporting work in terms of your calculations, your estimations, your assumptions, all put together, aided ably by the reflection or demonstration of professional skills is what the examining team expects at this level, that is the strategic professional level. So the examiner report generally comprises, and March and June 24 is no exception to that. It talks about the question format. What's the way in which the requirement is structured by the examining team? And for that question, how the scenario is developed. How, based on their actual observations, how the students have demonstrated the exam technique or the time management skills. And then they go on to comment on the actual requirements asked, which reflects how strong as well as weak candidates performed on both the aspects, that is, reflection of technical skills and demonstration of professional skills. So the key input for your preparation is that the examiner's report obviously sensitizes you on the approach that you need to use to ensure a pass for yourselves. Furthermore, the team comments about good answers. So what stronger candidates have done. If you build on your answers in the similar fashion, it will certainly boost your confidence and assure a sort of a pass for you. Now take, for example, here there are two comments from the March-June examiner's report. Candidates seem to be able to have a balanced item at the requirement. Now, what's the balanced item? If you're supposed to evaluate, you're going to bring out clearly the pros and cons, the pluses and minuses, the benefits or otherwise. And that actually needs a balanced approach. So the examining team says those who were found to be strong candidates, they have reflected this balanced approach. And good answers always include relevant points, points that are relevant to the task, points that are supported by collecting information from the exhibits given, and ably supported by your working notes wherever they are required. Working notes will have to be necessarily made wherever calculations are required, so you need to reflect your spreadsheet skills, and those working notes need to be brought and cross-referenced in your main answer, for which you may be using the word processor, for example, to write a report. So keep that in mind. The team also comments about weak candidates. Now understand these weaknesses very well and make sure that you don't fall into this category at all. The pitfalls. Whenever you're going to practice a lot of questions between now and the examination, or taking a mock, for example, avoid these pitfalls so that it can boost your confidence. Look at a specific observation made by this examiner's report. And this is found in all three questions, section A and section B, everywhere. Candidates did not do well to demonstrate skepticism and commercial acumen skills. In other words, there was a specific comment for two questions at least I found that candidates reflected good analytical skills and good evaluation skills. And of course, for the first section, where a report is expected, good communication skills. But in more than one question, this was a weakness, demonstrating skepticism and commercial acumen skills. Now, my strong recommendation to you is please do question practice wherein these professional skills are tested and make sure that you bring in this skill very, very clearly in your answers. And for that, actually, there are a couple of videos that are available on the ACCA website, which you can, of course, look at from your My ACCA account, how skepticism skill is tested and useful in AFM exam, and how commercial acumen skill is useful for AFM examination. So please watch that. It will give you much better idea. Examiners also provide sometimes some kind of an advisory for the students. Now, they say candidates should avoid repeating points, and this I have seen coming up exam after exam. They do mention this quite often, that students keep repeating the same point using different words. Please avoid that. You're not going to get any marks for that. Or students tend to make their point and go too much ahead, too much time they spend in explaining it. They rather over-explain the whole thing. That also needs to be avoided. So it's a kind of an advisory from the examining team. And you hear directly from the horse's mouth. So nothing can be as authentic as the examiner's report. So if you keep these insights in mind while practicing your questions, as well as taking your mock, and then comparing your answers with what examiners said in the relevant examiner's report, I think that's the best way of preparing yourself during the last 3 weeks up to the examination. So let's now look at some of the technical examples on which the exam team has given clear instructions. Let us see that. I've taken again the sample questions from the same March-June 2024 sample examination published. So question 2, Little Brady Company. Look at how the examining team has commented on the format. It's a question 2, therefore a 25-mark question, and it's based around a listed supplier of furniture and equipment. Examining team also explains which section of the syllabus this scenario is testing. Is it one area of syllabus or 2 areas of syllabus? Generally, you will find a question is based on more than one syllabus areas, and that is exactly the reason why you should study the entire syllabus. Don't leave anything. Now here, the question, of course, focused on investment appraisal and the application of option pricing theory. That was part A. Part B, discussion was expected to comment upon extent to which the company's investment would represent a diversification for a company. Now, this is a type of a requirement where students can easily get confused. Well, you would have learned about various types of investments or various approaches to growth, like organic growth or inorganic growth. And within that also, uh, growing by investing into the same area of business or starting a completely new activity for yourself. And the question is simply asking you, whatever investment they're planning, would it be a diversification for this company? So you need to discuss first for this company what a diversification would mean. Anything over and above furniture and equipment manufacturing that the company tries to do may not necessarily be the diversification, because it could simply be a backward integration or a forward integration. That may not necessarily mean a completely different line of business. So based on additional information given in the exhibits, a student will have to make sure to uh, have a judgment on whether the given investment would be a diversification or it is just entering into a new segment with a new product or a new market. Be very careful, and that is exactly the sense that examining team has brought out. And discussion topic in part C is related to section A of the syllabus. That's what I said. One requirement or question can test more than one, syllabus areas. And this involved, generally students may not expect this, but that's what they should do, because it's a general perception of the students that, okay, section A of the syllabus is just a theory, but it's not. Communicating financial strategy is part of the learning objective, and that is exactly what is asked over here. Communicating financial policy and goals to stakeholders, internal as well as externals. So it does talk about syllabus area tested, concepts tested in particular. And we need to clearly bring about how the company should actually communicate this both internally and externally. Which stakeholders are irrelevant? So if you just make a common generic points that company should explain this to stakeholders, no, that is not what is expected at this level. You should identify relevant internal and relevant external stakeholders to which the scenario is most relevant, and then make your points. That is what will gain marks for you. Then they talk about scenario, how to read exhibits, how to gather key information from the exhibits, not just copy pasting the information in support of your answer. No. So the examiner here has actually explained what a particular exhibit talks about. So the first exhibit presented information about the company, and that too about two major investment opportunities that are being considered. The first opportunity is investment in facilities to manufacture office pods, and second, investment in facilities to manufacture furniture and equipment for schools and universities. Now remember, this was related to a task that was mentioned earlier. Whether these investments tantamount to diversification, you have to make use of this exhibit and these two lines to apply your mind and judgment whether these two investment opportunities can be regarded as diversification. And then the exhibit that follows presents financial information of only first project, so that financial acceptability of the project can be assessed. Now, this is an indication to you given within the exhibit itself that there could be a task that requires you to assess financial acceptability of the project. Now, would it mean calculation of net present value, or even application of the concept of a real option using the PSOP model? Well, you need to check out the requirement and have a look at it. So there is a hint over here by the examiner on how does one read the exhibit information And then, highlight the key information from the examiner to be used in your answers. But please remember, don't copy paste the information as is from the given exhibits. Now, they comment on the actual requirement, what you're supposed to do. So the first one, evaluate. Note the verb very clearly. The verb is evaluate. And examiner had commented earlier that students generally reflected evaluation skills in a better way. A balanced approach, pros and cons, pluses and minuses, advantages, limitations. Limitations could include probably certain common assumptions that a particular model may have, like Black-Scholes model, which assumes that the risk-free rate is the rate at which borrowers and lenders can borrow money or lend money. So use this model. That's an instruction to you. You should not evaluate without using Black-Scholes pricing model. If you don't apply this model, you're surely not going to get marks. Whether the company should proceed with investment in furniture and equipment for schools and universities. So there may be some financial data given to you. And obviously, look at the way in which the examiner explains this out. So the examining team says there are marks for correctly identifying inputs to the Black-Scholes model. I'm sure you all are aware now that there is a separate spreadsheet for the Black-Scholes model that is populated as one of the response options for the students. And then there are 5 variables of the Black-Scholes model which are also pre-populated, not with numbers, of course, numbers you have to identify. Namely, these are the spot price, the exercise price, the risk-free rate of return, the standard deviation, and the time tenure. Many candidates, now this is the strength of the students, look, which could reflect that the students had practiced such questions very well. Many candidates were able to identify input data correctly and gain full marks. As calculations are not required because you just input those numbers and the pre-populated table will always give you the answers directly. You have to pick up that answer and use it in a way to help you to evaluate the financial acceptability of this proposal. But at the same time, examining team says common errors, look at the word, common errors were to get exercise price and asset price the wrong way around. Now, this reflects poor practice. You might have known it, but if you don't practice such sums, then naturally, during the exam time, you may get confused as to what is exercise price and what is asset price, which is spot price. Especially when there are real options, maybe options to delay, options to grow, option to sell a project, option to abandon a project. So based on that assessment first, you need to decide whether you need to identify the call option value or put option value. And that is where some of the common errors were identified. Incorrectly identifying the option as a put option rather than a call option. Now, if you do it wrongly, it's not a calculation error. It's an error committed with respect to understanding. Many candidates scored maximum or close to maximum. So majority did well, but if you feel you may not fall into that majority, you need to rectify that situation today. So learn how to read requirement, how to go on accumulating marks, where are the marks available, and then look at the examiner's report, look at the common areas of strength, look at the common mistakes that the students may be making. And then you do your exam practice accordingly. Look at the comments on this made. Overall performance was good. That's what examining team says. Calculation requirements in this question were not technically demanding. Why not? Because obviously the pre-populated spreadsheet was to be used. And then candidates were able to produce a well-structured answer. But for a well-structured answer, what is required? Demonstration of ability to apply, number one, the NPV method, and then the next was to apply the Black-Scholes model to identify the value of a real option. Candidates, not all, who were well prepared scored good or very good marks, especially for these two, NPV and Black-Scholes. Responses to discussion requirements were handled less well. Now, according to me, this is very, very crucial comment. Because when you're practicing, you're getting the values correct, you're getting the numbers right, and you feel so satisfied that you tend to leave the discussion part, even in your thoughts. But that is where most of the marks are reserved. And that's what the examiner says. Discussion part handled less well. Both discussion elements were slightly different as compared to the previous questions in the previous exams, of course. And many candidates, remember, didn't score highly on either of these parts. So you have understood where the AFM candidates do not get a pass. Develop and enhance your ability to handle discussion elements of the question, and which are in a plenty so far as the AFM exam is concerned. They are more competent in terms of demonstrating skill of analysis and evaluation. That's what I said. But, lack in so far as skepticism and commercial acumen is concerned. Then there are general comments for this question, same question, investment appraisal and communicating financial policies to stakeholders. As the examiner said earlier, NPV, BSOP done well, not doing well so far as discussion part is concerned, and not doing well the skepticism and commercial awareness, which could fetch you those crucial professional skills marks. Now, NPV is a carried forward knowledge for you so far as AFM is concerned. You would have used it consistently during your AFM practice. But look at the common areas of worry over here. Many candidates didn't calculate incremental working capital requirements. And many also missed out on working capital release at the end of the project. Now, this was quite commonly questioned during AFM, so it's just a carry forward knowledge for you. Tax calculations were generally not done correctly. Now, because there was a provision that the tax losses could be carried forward. And that means the tax-related cash flows could be deferred. And students didn't do this correctly. Probably you missed out on practicing these areas. So it's not out of place for here for me to say that, okay, one could even manage some of the tough FM questions where examining team has identified these weaknesses. Just give yourself a couple of hours and just get it right. Weaker candidates didn't correctly identify the spot price and exercise price in the real option that I already commented earlier while explaining the weaknesses. But I mean, this is actually unpardonable errors. Working capital related calculations, tax calculations, tax depreciation, right? So these are the areas, and this is just to illustrate based on this question. But there are many common areas where you could find these as very important for AFM examination, right? Even basics of the financial risks, interest rate risks, very, very crucial for you to quickly revise and keep practicing in the coming 2 to 3 weeks. They also said that, okay, whether the proposed investment represented diversification. Now look what is the first comment. Weaker candidates didn't read the requirement correctly and brought in the wrong project to the discussion. It was very clearly indicated by the examiner which of the projects, there were 2 projects, so which project should be assessed with regard to the diversification. But many students brought in a wrong project, and that too, they didn't understand the requirement itself correctly. And further comment was very few candidates were able to discuss the issue of diversification. This is really very, very worrying comment according to me. Because generally students, I have personally experienced it, that the students say, sir, section A of the syllabus, okay, we'll just read it once or twice. No, that area in fact contains a lot of strategy related issues that a global finance manager, finance head, a CFO can confront on a day-to-day basis in their workplace. So don't take any section of the syllabus lightly. That's what my recommendation to you will always be. Communicating financial strategy. Now look at the comment. These are learnings from all of us. Overall performance was very weak because the candidates misread the requirement and discussed factors that would affect the company's financial strategy. That's not asked. You already have a financial strategies in place. So the examiner is not asking what are the factors that led to development of the strategy. How they decided a financial strategy, you are going to communicate to internal stakeholders like your employees, like your maybe your employee union officials, external stakeholders like shareholders, your vendors maybe, or whichever are identifiable as the stakeholders based on the information given in the exhibits. That's the crux. Now, naturally, if you are including in your answer the factors that would affect this financial strategy, I'm afraid you're not going to get any marks, unfortunately. So, this is the kind of a detail level at which the examiner report will provide you with immense insights. So what are the learnings for us from this? I will put that in front of you as a part of my tips to handle these kind of questions in your upcoming examination. But before that, here is a quick poll. Do you practice questions on practice platform? So yes, no, or sometimes. Please give me the inputs so that we can understand how, and you also then can learn how others are doing it. Well, answer please. Please make it faster so that I can close it once it reaches a certain good percentage of students answering. Fine, it's last 15 seconds. Well, that's it. Let me close the poll out and let's see. Please observe what candidates are doing. Very good. 55% are saying yes, they do make use of practice platform. Though I'm definitely worried about those 13.6%. Please wake up. There's still some time for you. Please wake up. Please make sure, that you do practice in the practice platform based on the past questions. All these questions you will find there already published. And I'm also equally worried about those who say sometimes. No, make it a practice, build it in your learning schedule. This is a facility provided to you, which if you make maximum use of, I think examinations will never be a daunting challenge for any of you, let alone AFM, no other examination. So please make the best possible use of this practice platform, and as many practice questions you can do, it's always going to be better, and immediately compare it with the relevant examiner's report and find out, are you a part of those strong candidates, or are you falling within those few unlucky ones? And then change your strategy of preparation accordingly in the coming 3 weeks, and I'm sure you will see a change in the way you approach these exams, and will be able to do it in the most professional way. So what do I recommend you to do in the next 3 weeks? Ensure quickly, okay, have you made use of the entire syllabus and gathered all the knowledge? Refer to your notes that you had taken. Make full use of these flashcards that are there on ACCA's Study Hub. Revise, as I said, using the flashcards. Past exam question practice. There are past exams. There are, of course, the sample exams. There are practice exams. All is available on the practice platform. So make full use of those word processors and spreadsheet functionalities, because if you have practice, it's the best possible way to manage your time. Otherwise, you will keep struggling in making use of spreadsheet functionality, especially. Don't use that. Make sure that the BSOP response option is efficiently used by you. Remember, from September 2024 AFM examination, ACCA is introducing a rearranged formula for Modigliani-Miller proposition number 2 that relates, the geared cost of equity with ungeared cost of equity, which you will have to always keep applying when you are either calculating the adjusted present value or make use of ungeared beta, etc. And that is illustrated in the form of a very, very good video, which I think you will find in the resource section. So please check out on that link. Make sure you do download that and practice that in the blank workspace that is given to you in the practice platform. And make sure that you're getting the same answers. And this use of rearranged formula is certainly going to help you, friends, in managing your exam time. Some minutes are definitely going to be saved if you make use of this very well. Needless me to overemphasize the need for you to take mock. But don't just take mock. As far as possible, make use of your tutors from the approved learning partners, whosoever you are learning with. Take their feedback. Equally important is the feedback in terms of the examiner's report. But take feedback from your tutors as well. Take a mock, don't forget it. Don't be afraid of taking mocks. That's what has been the observation all through. So I said initially that, okay, I'll help you by making some tips to you on avoiding common pitfalls and improving, therefore, your examination performance. First, let us understand what are those common pitfalls. Again, what I've done is I've summarized these common pitfalls from analysis of 4 to 5 past examiner reports. And it has been identified very clearly, and it's vividly seen in the answers that markers mark, that the students immediately start writing without any planning, without regard to the format of the question, without having any thought about how to structure your answer. What sort of key information would you bring from the exhibits? How will you tabulate the information in the spreadsheet? Take a couple of minutes for that. Always take a pause in the examination. Number one, to understand fully the requirement in the most correct manner, understand the scope of that requirement, relate the information from the exhibits, plan your answer, and then just put your thoughts in the best possible manner. In the planning process, of course, you should allot time, and there are quite a few videos, instructions based on how does one allot time for each question. 50 marks question, you make use of 90 minutes, and then 45 minutes for the remaining 2 questions, plainly. In addition to that, you get 15 more minutes. Another pitfall is, okay, you answer what you know and fail to answer what is required. Like in that example that I talked about, students didn't talk about how the strategy should be communicated, but students talked about what factors would affect the strategy. So you're not answering what's required. And on that, unfortunately, you're not going to get marks. Look at the question verb. Does it say analyze? Does it say evaluate? Does it include in the end making recommendations? Respond to each of the verbs, and your answer should clearly reflect that. And please mind very well the professional skills that are getting tested. And specific guidance given by the examiner was concentrating on making full use of ACCA resources on how to reflect your skepticism skills and your commercial awareness skills. So these are some of the common pitfalls that have been observed, at least for the AFM examination, and what you could do for that. Time management, the most crucial. And remember, there is no structured technique for time management. It's not an arithmetic, 1.8 marks per minutes per mark. This is not an arithmetic. Arithmetic according to me. It's making best use of the time in making sure that you practice a lot, practice a lot. Practice makes man perfect, as they say. And as much practice you put in using the practice platform, you will easily come in terms with the examination screen. How do you navigate through that? How do you read the requirements, read the exhibits actively and fast? Only practice can help you out there. Plan, as I said, plan the answers, structure, headings, subheadings, put it first, and then go on filling those area. Make sure that when you're structuring the answer and when you're putting heading or subheadings, you cover all parts of the requirement. Automatically, you will get some credit when you show that you are satisfying fully the parts of requirement. Answer format, okay, sometimes the students get confused whether it's going to be like SBL examination that there could be many answer formats. No. In this case, generally in question 1, you will always find the report format of the answer. Report format may not be there for all 50 marks. There may be a small requirement, maybe 4, 5, 6 marks, which will be outside the scope of the report. 30, 35 marks will be, of course, there for actually writing the report, and 10 marks will be reserved for professional skills. 4 professional skills. Question 1 of AFM will test all professional skills together. It's not like SBL examination where each question will test a different skill. Here, for AFM, even for APM for that matter, all the skills could be tested in question 1 and a couple of skills in the remaining questions of section B. So make sure that you pay attention to this and support your information. I mean, if you put an argument that the company is, it would be better for the company to expand overseas, if that is the advice that you are giving, why are you giving that? Maybe somewhere in the exhibit, there is a data that will support. You could say, this strategy is suggested because the domestic market is saturated and the neighboring countries are showing good growth, whereby the company's products market is expandable. So you're not only making a suggestion, you're telling why, supporting it with the information from the exhibit, forcing the examiner to give you marks. And please remember, no copy pasting information from exhibits. You are not going to get any marks for that. Any marks for that. Right? Avoid writing only bullet points. That signals to the examiner that you are running out of time. So make sure that you manage your time in such a way that you are able to expand all the bullet points. It could happen that instead of 4 points, you mention only 3. But for all 3 points, if you develop them well, you'll get 2 marks per point. And it's better doing that rather than giving only bullet list, and then say getting only 2 or 3 marks rather than getting 6 or 7. So that's better. Please remember this very well. Tabulating the numerical answers. Yes, you have to use the spreadsheet response option for that, and linking it in your main answer. It's very crucial. Whenever you are answering the requirements regarding discussions, discursive elements, rote learned answers is not going to score you technical marks. And because you don't score technical, you're definitely going to lose on scoring professional marks as well. Many students who don't practice a lot spend a lot of time in calculations. So maybe 60% of the allotted time they use for calculations and remaining only 40% for the discursive or narrative parts. There's definitely an imbalance. You're going to lose marks over there. Don't do that. And as I said, only practice can help you overcome this. So I'm coming towards the end of my advisory using the insights from the examiner's report. I will handle the questions. There are quite a few questions that have already popped up in the Q&A. But before we go over to the questions, just answer this. Pre-September 2024 mock and debrief release date. Be true to yourself. No problem, even if you get it wrong. But just it will help you understand you need to be attentive towards these resources as well. Right. This time the responses are coming pretty slow, but I can't keep on waiting much. So last 15 seconds. That's it. So I'm closing this poll. 62% have answered. Let's see what happens. Well, 12th of August and 16th of August is the correct answer, but that's only 48.5%. That means nearly 52% of today's attendees aren't aware of the dates. Please mark these dates, save them for you use now. Make sure that you take this pre-September mock and subsequently watch the debrief videos thereon. So that's really important for you. So let me handle the questions quickly now. Whatever I'm seeing in the Q&A box, I'll try and reflect. Do you have to reference workings at W1, W2, etc., or I use only cell reference to my workings without labeling? No, I would definitely recommend you label the working notes, note 1, note 2, or W1, W2. That's a good practice, good exam practice, certainly. The next question is, are we okay to use the spreadsheet formally instead of workings in the examination? IRR, NPV, BSOF. Obviously, this is the way in which you are going to do it in workplace. So don't type out the discount factors. Don't give the multiplication formula. Just use the syntax equal to NPV into bracket, the range and the rate. That's it. Same thing with IRR. And this is where I say practice is important. You don't have to keep on typing everything. You should be smart enough to make use of these, spreadsheet functionalities, I always keep saying. The next question is how to improve method of answering towards discuss the assumptions, as it is repetitive. You're absolutely right, Tirumurthy, that it is quite often questioned. How does one approach in answering, discussing the assumptions? For example, now, you may say that the growth assumption needs to be revisited or needs a relook. Now, this may be your starting point. Then explain why do you say so. For example, in the exhibit, it might have been given to you that the competition is hotting up and the segment is now open for overseas player within the country. You should say, given these 2 points, that there is a lot of competition that is happening and there is a likelihood of companies from overseas are coming to this area because the business is now open to them. The growth rate of, let's say, 10% or 8%, whatever you use, seems to be a bit on a optimistic side. So you make your point, support it with 2 or 3 sentences, not more than that. And that's what is going to give you good marks. I hope this answer makes your query clear to you. Does spreadsheet get marked on our calculations, or do we have to put any methodology in the word processor? No, the only way that you have to put in the word processor is a link to the spreadsheet. You can say, for example, you make a point and into brackets say, as mentioned in working note number 1 or whatever. The next question, how to manage time efficiently? I said, practice is the only way. Practice under exam conditions. If you have allocated, let's say, 35 minutes or 40 minutes for doing something, once those 40 minutes are over, there is a timer there in the examination, just move over. That's what is the best way. If my calculation is wrong, will I get a 0? No, you should be at this stage aware about the own figure rule. So it's not a 0. You will get penalized for an error only once, provided your subsequent answering is all logical and correct. In terms of written questions, can there be any other formats or only report format will be asked? Others, I meant like notes, emails. I think I answered this during my discussion, saying, okay, in AFM, the first question is generally a report format. Other two questions may just ask you to evaluate or analyze or something like that. There are no other formats as of now. Should calculation be always shown in appendices? Yes, it is a preferred way of doing things, especially if you're writing a report. The report should spell out all the relevant points supported by appendices. So you could say, okay, according to the results reflected in Appendix 1, my comment is so and so. So it's always a better word, better way of doing it. What's the difference and when to use spot rate and exercise price in real options topic? Well, for that, you need to ensure that you have learned them very well. This topic is, you refer to ACCA Study Hub. Very beautifully, they have explained, if there is an option to abandon, it's like a put option. So what is the exercise price in put option? What is the spot price in put option? And similarly, if there is an option to delay, it's a call option. So spot rate and exercise price, spot price and exercise price, it's all very well mentioned there. My advice to you is go to ACCA Hub. In 1.5 page, they have explained it very beautifully.
That's been advising. Great questions, Milind. I'm just conscious of time.
Because we're already. I'll just handle this last question and then we'll stop.
Great.
Abandoning a question if I realize I'm going over time and starting the next one. Yes, I think I have answered that. Yes, you should move on. So the other questions, I think there are only a couple of questions remaining, but copy pasting is not to be done. Under exam conditions, it may be difficult, but if you practice well, I think the answer to that is practice only. There's no question of prohibiting copy pasting. It's a question of whether you are going to get marks, and be aware of that. So I in fact, have tackled all the questions.
That's great, thank you. How time flies when you have such an engaged group with such good questions that have been coming in. So as I mentioned, we do need to bring things to a close, and I hope that you've all found today's session very useful. Just quickly, I'd like to remind you about some important resources that are in the resource section of the webinar. So you can see links to the slides from today's session. There's also the pre-September 2024 mock and debrief support that Milind spoke about, examiner reports, technical articles and topic explainers. And there's also some links to the ACCA Study Hub and ACCA Student Study Resource YouTube channel, which all will be great with your preparation leading up to the exam. As I mentioned at the start, everyone who registered for the webinar will get an email with the details and how you can listen to it again. And finally, thank you for joining in today, and thank you for Milind for extending his support. And finally, thank you to the team in the background that have helped deliver the session and answer some of the questions. So best of luck, everyone, for your exams. Thank you.
All the best from my side as well. Thank you very much.